Right in the middle of that card, she wrote, "In all your ways, acknowledge Him, and He will direct your paths. Lean not on your own understanding." And I just started to sob. I didn't know what was going on. I just knew that the answers that I was looking for had something to do with that. Grew up in Flint, Michigan, and when I was about 5 years old, my mother had had an affair on my father, became pregnant from that relationship, obviously devastated the family. My stepfather was a very violent, abusive alcoholic, and so as a little kid, it was very common for me to wake up in the middle of the night and hear him beating her. Of course, the older I got, I would try to stand up for her, and then I would be the one that would be the recipient of that. So basically, a lot of chaos in our home. I went through my junior high years. I was very insecure, very just a wounded young man, I guess, in a lot of ways. Started smoking marijuana at 12 and drinking whatever I could find. And then when I was 16, my mother died of cancer. She was 37, and I moved out on my own. And I had, at that time, I had worked for my real father. He owned a plumbing company. I had worked for him after school and on the weekends, and so I was able to work out a deal where I could get a house that I put some plumbing in for free. And I was the only kid in high school that had his own place. So that was good and that was bad, because I abused alcohol, everything you could think of. And so, long story short, the summer that I graduated, I was in my apartment one Saturday afternoon. I was getting ready to go out for a night out partying with everybody. Had a Michelob in my hand, and I was looking through my mail, and I noticed that there was a card from a woman that I had met at my mother's funeral. And I thought that the woman, there's something different about her. She was just a nice lady, and she congratulated me for graduating. But right in the middle of that card, she wrote, "In all your ways, acknowledge Him, and He will direct your paths. Lean not on your own understanding." And I just started to sob. I didn't know what was going on. I just knew that the answers that I was looking for had something to do with that verse. I knew it was a Bible verse, but I had never read the Bible. And so that started my journey. And I just started calling her. We would talk till 3 or 4 in the morning. I asked her every hard question you could ask. And eventually, I gave my heart to Christ in the parking lot of the church, actually, and never looked back. I started to see, shortly after that, within a year or two, people were coming to me on the job sites asking for prayer, asking for counsel. I'm just this young kid. I don't know what I'm doing, but they saw something in me. And so that's kind of how I started feeling like God was calling me to the ministry. And so there's a whole lot in there that of forgiveness and I'll share one dynamic of it that really pushed me to come to Christ. I was so angry and bitter at God my whole childhood because I felt like I would see other families and I would just think, man, we got cheated. There's so much chaos in our home. And Scott Schneider brought up earlier about being at Little League games. And I remember my stepdad and my mom coming to one of my Little League games drunk, and he started hitting her at the game, and everyone in the crowd is that's Jankowski's family, and I'm just humiliated. So I was very angry about it. And 2 nights before my mother passed away, she had called me and she said, "Could you come to the hospital tonight? I just want to spend some time with you and talk to you." And I said, yeah, I'll come. And she said, you have to promise me that you'll come. And I said, I will. And I didn't. I went out with a bunch of guys instead. And I'll never forget how disappointed she was that I didn't show up. And I said, I'll come, I'll come later. I'll come tomorrow. And the next day she slipped into a coma, and then she had died. So I never got a chance to talk to her. Of course, that added to all of the junk that I was carrying. One of the things that really pushed me over the edge was when I was talking with this woman who sent me the card. I'd been talking to her on the phone about 3 months at that point. And I said, okay, I've heard everything that you've had to say. Heaven sounds like it's an awesome place. But my mom was an adulteress. We weren't raised in church. She probably did everything wrong that you could do. And if she's not in heaven, I'm not sure that I really want to be there. And the woman just paused and she said, well, do you remember your mom, I think, called you and wanted you to come and meet with her? And I didn't even know she knew that. I said, yeah. And she said, well, the night before, your mom had accepted Christ into her life. And she wanted you to know. And that was it. So, yeah, and I was able to lead my stepfather to Christ on his deathbed, and who was a man that I hated. And so God set me free from a lot of garbage,
For more information about Mike's ministry, go to the website, theharborli.com. Thank you for watching The Call with Nancy Sabato. If you like this segment, please share it. Until next time, may the Lord bless you.